Well, I'm joined now by Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bashara. Marwan, can you put this into some sort of context for us? Talk to me about the end game here for Mohammed bin Salman. Which part of the strategy are we seeing right now?
This is actually a whole new breed of Saudi, indeed Arab leaders showing up in London, not just young and industrious and wanting to change the world and Saudi Arabia in the process, but are totally different from his predecessors, Saudi kings, much older, more humble, modest, and more implicit. What we're seeing here is a far more explicit, boasting young man with lots of pretensions about the region. So much so that on the eve of his arrival here, he would say something like, Yemen is done. We're done. There are only a few Houthis left. Qatar, not important. We can deal with that with the deputy minister. Palestine, not important at all. We're taking care of that. Turkey is part of a triangle of evil with Iran and fundamentalists. Iran, we're going to take the war to Iran. With such easiness, he's talking about basically taking on the whole region with perhaps the dictator in Egypt who can't even help himself within that country. But it's all done in this context of, in Trump, we trust, right? And on the way to London, basically, it's all talk, and talk tends to be cheap, except when money talks. When money talks, then it's very loud and it's expensive. And here, probably Prime Minister May is not listening to the Crown Prince. She's listening to the money. And with the question of money, the UK has $8 to $10 billion of pounds and of trade with Saudi Arabia. It wants to enlist 5% of the Saudi oil company Aramco, which is valued at $1 to $2 trillion. It sold something like $5 billion worth of weapons since the Yemen war started, and it continues to sell about $1 billion a year, and so on and so forth. So it's really welcoming the Crown Prince because in post-Brexit UK, countries like Saudi Arabia could be quite handy.
How is this strategy, you pointed to it there, changing the region? I mean, even if it is just talk, what sort of impact does it have?
Well, for the time being, it's actually destabilizing the region. So the war in Yemen, of course, has led already to tens of thousands of casualties, millions of displaced people, millions of various, other sorts of casualties, and so on and so forth. The country is basically on its knees. And Saudi Arabia is at an impasse in Yemen. Nothing is over in Yemen. If anything, the future of Saudi Arabia, the future of this Crown Prince, will be determined in Yemen because it's anything but over there. The crisis in the Gulf has already alienated 3 Gulf partners, Kuwait, Oman, and of course Qatar. And Qatar has basically come out a de facto winner out of this thing because it broke out of the isolation and it's really, normalizing its relationship with the rest of the world. How is the Crown Prince at 32, already a defense minister, wants to be fighting Iran when Iran has already won against Saudi Arabia in places like Syria, like Iraq, a bit like Yemen, in various parts of the region? And how would he fight Iran when he's already isolating the likes of Turkey? I mean, seriously, why demonize Turkey, demonize Erdogan, call them as part of a triangle of evil? I mean, what has Turkey done against Saudi Arabia for them to be treated as a fellow Sunni, almost enlightened, religious, leadership in Turkey, to be called them evil? I can understand why certain liberals in Europe, in the UK, or the United States would want to criticize President Erdogan for being a bit more authoritarian, for not being kind to the press, and so on and so forth. But for a young, boasting Crown Prince to be calling the likes of Turkey as a part of a triangle of evil along with Iran and other religious fundamentalists is a problem.
Marwan Bashara, thank you.
Thank you.